let me go. Give me a chance to start over again, and others will open the way. Without you, I'm tired of you. Don't hold me, don't hold me, and don't torment with your love. It's too late, understand. Let me live my destiny. Let me find happiness with someone else, even if I'm wrong.
Many years ago, when Guri married her wonderful husband, Charlie Lockmad, she dreamed, in her innocent naivety, that their life together would be filled with rose petals, passionate embraces, and fiery declarations of eternal love. Unfortunately, even from the very beginning, none of that was there. Her husband, Charlie Lockmad, emotionally reserved to the point of coldness, kept a noticeable distance from the very first day they met. After 5 years of marriage, their communication had dwindled to emotionless politeness with the woman who loved him with all her broken heart. It was painful to realize and accept that their relationship had been doomed from the start. Deep down, Guri suspected that she would never be the center of Charlie's universe. She naively thought he was just a cold, unemotional person. But she was wrong. Terribly wrong. Guri sat with a large cup of tea in her hands, anxiously glancing at the clock. Charlie was late. But of course, this was no longer his home, not his apartment. He hadn't lived here for 2 weeks. Charlie had rented a place of his own. Guri had filed for divorce. It was a mutual decision between two adults who had realized that life together was no longer their path. Charlie opened the door and calmly walked into the empty kitchen. Standing by the doorway, he greeted her with a calm hello, but didn't take another step. "This is going to be a long conversation, Charlie," she said quietly. "You should sit down." "Guri, please, Charlie," she insisted, clenching her teeth. "I think I've earned this conversation. Or is he waiting for you?" "Tavil doesn't know that I'm no longer living with you," Charlie replied, adjusting his watch. "You still haven't told him we're getting divorced?" Guri asked. She felt her heart clench in pain. It seemed she still hadn't let go of her love for Charlie. She had spent a year trying to prepare herself, going through all the stages of acceptance, but losing the man she loved was still a loss. It hurts him too," Charlie said. "I know," Guri replied. Guri knows. She honestly knows. And she also knows that Tavil Smith isn't to blame. He didn't destroy their family. Strangely enough, this thought came to her during one of her sleepless nights. As she struggled with insomnia, she suddenly realized she and Charlie never truly had a family. They were more like roommates, cohabitants, good friends who, in the early days of their marriage, occasionally shared moments of intimacy. "I just want you to talk to me and answer all my questions honestly," Guri asked. It was pure masochism, but Guri knew that without the truth, she couldn't move forward. Tavil Smith transferred from Concordia University in Quebec, Canada, to his second year at the University of Toronto a year ago. A charming and talented student, and now the center of Charlie's universe. Tavil Smith was all mystery. His striking appearance sparked a certain desire, evoking a sense of aesthetic pleasure in the hearts of anyone with even a hint of appreciation for art. Tavil Smith was, in fact, the embodiment of art itself, an incredible, untouched, pure beauty, crafted by God and his parents. He had a sharp mind, a talent for listening and quickly absorbing information, a sense of humor, and a tactful charisma that made him stand out. Tavil was always listening to something through his large headphones, spending all his free time in the library reading and constantly jotting things down in a worn, thick notebook. He would politely smile at every greeting. Guri, an English professor at the university, had noticed the talented young man from the very first lecture. She noted then that the 19-year-old wouldn't have any trouble socializing. The new student was surrounded by girls and boys alike, all eager to grab his attention and befriend him. Back then, a year ago, Guri, an English professor at this university, had no idea that the arrival of this person would plunge 3 lives into a deep, unrelenting bitterness of loneliness and endless pain. Charlie Lockmad, as it turned out, remained a noble and honest man to the very end. But Guri understood that if Tavil Smith had been the kind of person who wanted to break up the marriage of his 2 professors, Charlie wouldn't have stood a chance against him. And yet it was on that particular day that Charlie pulled away for good, and Guri remembers that day all too well. The Lochmads had arrived at the university together because they both had 9 a.m. classes. They had enjoyed a delicious breakfast at their favorite cafe and then spent a long time searching for a parking spot. In an instant, when the new student caught Charlie's eye, Guri saw something change in her husband. She followed Charlie's gaze, and it felt like a cold wave washed over her. That strange feeling intensified when she realized that her husband wasn't even breathing. He was staring at Tavil, gripping the steering wheel, biting his lower lip, something Guri had never seen him do before. She had never seen him so flustered, so unfocused, so affected. But her heart sank when Charlie threw out the words, "Go without me," and bolted out of the car after the student. Guri was dying inside as she sat in the passenger seat, watching Charlie lightly touch someone else's shoulder, stopping the student in his tracks. Tavil smiled brightly and greeted Charlie with respect. But the worst part was seeing the look of pure happiness on Charlie's face. She knew Charlie well, and no one, absolutely no one, had ever been graced with that kind of sincerity from him. No one. Not ever. Guri couldn't hold back. She slammed the car door and walked over to the two of them, interrupting their conversation. It was petty, so incredibly petty. Later, she felt disgusted with herself, ashamed that she couldn't keep her composure in front of her own husband and this boy. But in that moment, she was caught up in it. It took all her strength not to pry Charlie's fingers off the soft cashmere coat of their student. It was wildly unnatural. The whole scene was wrong. And a dark sense of satisfaction flickered inside her when she saw something like a painful spasm cross Tavil's face. He seemed to dim, to withdraw. The charming smile faded from his incredibly beautiful lips, and a trace of sadness appeared in his eyes. Guri remembers that she bared her teeth then, openly and very unbecomingly. And later that evening, as she cried bitterly in the bathroom with the door closed, she realized she had lost. Because that night, Charlie came home from work later than usual, and for the first time, he didn't sit down to dinner with her. For the first time in 5 years of marriage. They had married on a whim. At first, Guri suggested they move in together, thinking that as professors who had been in a relationship for 2 years, they shouldn't have to commute from one end of Toronto to the other to see each other. Then she hinted that her mother would love to see her daughter get married. Charlie had smiled indulgently and then simply said, "Why not?" Later, they both agreed they had rushed into it. But at the time, it worked for them. To be honest, Guri really wanted to marry the young Professor Charlie. From the moment she first laid eyes on him, she fell for him, like a cat that digs in its claws and refuses to let go. Just 2 months into their relationship, she introduced Charlie to her parents and invited his parents to a dinner at a restaurant. Her plan was precise, like clockwork, and Guri desperately hoped that her love would be enough for both of them for the rest of their lives. Charlie really was a wonderful husband, attentive, gentle, and faithful. He completely ignored any flirtations from his female colleagues. Before they got married, Charlie was honest with Guri and told her that he'd had a brief relationship with a man. Guri accepted him completely, felt happy, and became his wife. How could a fleeting surge of emotion destroy several years of marriage? There was no way some guy, no matter how talented, kind, or handsome, could take away everything she had built. "Did you ever love me?" Guri asked. "You're a good person," Charlie replied. "Charlie, just answer the question. Did you ever love me?" Guri pressed. Charlie lowered his eyes. Guri tried to pull herself together. She needed to find something good in all of this. She had a future waiting for her, too. Her own bright future, one she still believed in. "When did you realize you didn't love me?" Guri asked. Charlie surprised her with his answer. "The night before the wedding." He looked her in the eyes. And, again, those beautiful deep eyes were filled with so much truth that it felt like she could drown in it. She had to hide the shock of his words behind a nervous laugh. "Why didn't you call off the wedding?" Guri asked. "Why would I? I was happy with you." I thought I just wasn't capable of those kinds of feelings, Charlie said, smiling warmly. And now? Now you're capable? Guri knew the answer. She had seen it, but she wanted the truth. Now I feel like I'm capable of so much more, Guri. I'm ready for anything. Charlie didn't look away. Guri remembered a time when her husband came home very nervous. He was shaking, restless, like he was being torn apart inside. She already knew about his feelings for the student and was in the bargaining stage. She thought that if she showed understanding and kindness, maybe there would still be a chance. What happened? Guri asked that evening. Charlie, tell me, what happened? Charlie looked around frantically, then rasped, barely comprehending his own words. Tavil wants to transfer to another university. He wants to leave. I'm sorry. Guri, I'm so sorry. I can't. Charlie abruptly stepped away, clenching his fists. That day, bargaining slowly turned into depression. The end was near. Later, she found out that Tavil Smith had indeed submitted his transfer application to the dean's office. Charlie stopped sleeping. He stopped eating. He stopped coming home. A few days later, she saw them in the hallway and couldn't just walk by. Hiding behind a frosted door, she peeked through the crack and saw her own husband desperately kissing that boy. Saw him holding his face in his gentle hands, whispering words of love and begging, no, pleading, with him not to leave. Guri cried, swallowing bitter tears, feeling pity and hatred for them both, and for herself, and for this cruel adult life. Tavil quietly cried, shaking his head back and forth. Like a broken record, he kept repeating, I can't destroy everything. While Charlie screamed that he would take all the responsibility, that his baby wasn't to blame, that he would die if his baby left him. Guri never knew Charlie was capable of such emotions. So strong, so self-abandoning, almost obsessive. And she felt a deep sadness for him. Yes, sadness. It was then that she realized Charlie deserved to be happy. Guri went to the break room, composed herself, and then headed to the dean's office. Oh, Professor Guri Nam. The office secretary greeted her. The whole family's visiting today. They knew everything, she suddenly realized. These people knew everything. They had been gossiping about them, digging through their private lives. Tavil Smith is one of the best students at this university. He's won 3 grand prizes at international festivals for his scripts. As his teacher, I cannot allow this mistake to happen. Don't you dare expel him. Guri shouted in the dean's office. They listened, but didn't understand why she was defending the person who had practically taken her husband away. That's how they saw it. And Guri said, Our personal lives are nobody's business. Do you hear me? And I won't let you ruin this boy's life over your sick fantasies. A voice spoke from behind her. If you expel him, I'll resign. Charlie stood at the door, pale as a ghost. Tired, thin. Guri wanted to walk over and hug her husband. She wanted to comfort him. And so will I, Guri added, knowing she had to stand by him. The dean promised to talk Tavil out of it. He thought the Lockmod family was in the midst of a terrible scandal, but here they were, standing united. When they left the administration building, Charlie caught up to his wife and simply said, Thank you. Guri wanted to hit Charlie so hard that it would leave a mark, so that everyone would feel the pain. But she couldn't. Tell me about him, Guri asked. She really wanted to know what Charlie felt for this boy. He's very kind, Charlie smiled. Unique. His way of thinking amazes me, and he's beautiful. The most beautiful to me. I'm sorry too? Guri knew the answer would hurt, but she was curious, like a curious cat. What do you mean? Charlie turned away, trying to hide the dreamy expression on his face. Charlie was a very handsome man. Right now, he looked like a young man in love, a young man over 30. Have you made love? Guri asked boldly. No, Charlie answered honestly. Wait, you're in love, right? Guri even laughed. But you don't want each other? We do. Very much. But Tavil, we kiss a lot. I love kissing him. He's so gentle, so affectionate, so tactile, Charlie described softly. Where do you meet? Guri asked. He has his own apartment. You know how wealthy his parents are, Charlie replied. Do they know about your relationship? Guri asked. No, and we'll do everything to make sure they don't find out until the very end, Charlie said. The end of what? Guri asked. We'll leave when he finishes university. There's no place for us here. You know that too. And he's so talented. Charlie answered. Guri knew. Tavil Smith was already a talented screenwriter. His librettos had been the foundation of several musicals, and one film company had agreed on a script for a 3-part movie. I want him to keep creating. I'll find a place too. The history of art is the same in every language, Charlie continued. Guri felt a strange sense of lightness, almost relief, that he was sharing these plans with her. I heard he plays the piano beautifully, Guri remembered. Yes. I gave him a grand piano for Christmas. Charlie smiled. What does he like to play? Guri's curiosity lingered. Nociens by Eric Satie, Charlie replied. Guri instantly pictured Tavil's elegant long fingers on the piano keys, his relaxed look at home, and Charlie sitting beside him. The image seemed beautiful. Your boy has good taste. Maybe we could have been friends, Guri said. Charlie smiled, looked at her with a sad expression, and said softly, Thank you for understanding, Guri. I don't know how I deserve this. I still love you, Guri replied. But I've lost all hope, Charlie, so I think it will be easier for everyone if I just let you go to him. Tavil is wonderful. I couldn't hate him. I wanted to despise him, but when I saw his empty, lifeless eyes, full of guilt and despair, I realized I couldn't. It will be easier for Tavil to know it doesn't hurt you as much anymore. Charlie took a step closer. When did you realize you were in love with him? Guri asked. I fell in love at first sight, Charlie whispered. I never stood a chance, Guri. All Tavil had to do was smile, say something, ask a question, accidentally brush against my hand, breathe near me, so close I could feel the warmth of his body, the scent of his skin. I was losing my mind for months, not even trying to fight it. I was torturing myself, him, and you. But one day I just couldn't hold back. You understand, I literally attacked him with a kiss. And he kissed me back. He clung to me, pressed himself so close that I could feel him right beneath my ribs. I never stood a chance, and it turned out neither did he. But when he started avoiding me, when he stopped looking at me, stopped talking to me, I realized I was losing him, and I knew I couldn't live a day without him. Like a child, I cried. Can you imagine? I sat outside his apartment, begging him to let me in. I just wanted to talk, to hear a single word. Tavil finally opened the door. He let me in, into his apartment, into his heart. Like a little animal, he held on to me. And in that moment, we weren't afraid of anything. We weren't thinking about anything else. But then reality set in when Tavil said he couldn't destroy our marriage, that I shouldn't do this to you. He's so young, but so noble. Tavil asked me not to come back, but I kept coming. I couldn't stay away. Tavil is a good person, Guri, and so are you. But I want to be with him. I'm sorry. And Guri forgave him. She forgave him quickly. What right did she have to torment herself or them? And she let him go. Ten years had passed. It was a major international event, and Namguri had been invited as a guest. With subtle nods, all three of them acknowledged each other. Her heart beat faster as she caught sight of the incredibly handsome Charlie walking alongside a strikingly beautiful young man. Tavil had matured significantly. His beauty outshone the other contestants, leaving them far behind. Dressed entirely in black, the ring on his left hand momentarily caught the light, sparking a tinge of envy. They had truly decided to be together. Charlie watched his baby with an adoring gaze, ready to rush in with congratulations and hugs at any moment. Everyone knew they had been married for 7 years, but no one touched on the subject. One simple phrase, "Our relationship isn't for the cameras," was enough for people to understand. They loved each other. Now, they had everything. A family, a reputation, fame. As for Guri, she had built a successful career for herself. She had started writing. They had all made it, each finding their place in the world. They had all found room for love.
Let me go, let me go. Give me a chance to start over again. And others will open the way. Without you, I'm tired of you. Don't hold me, don't hold me. And don't torment with your love, it's too late, understand. torment with your love. It's too late, understand. Let me live my destiny. Let me find happiness with someone else, even if I'm wrong. Don't bother me, I'm so happy. Don't hold me, don't hold me, and don't torment with your love. It's too late, understand. Let me live my destiny. Let me find happiness with someone else. Let me find happiness with someone else, even if I'm wrong. Don't bother me, I'm so happy.